there, it's Antoinette and welcome back to my channel. Now I'm going to go through 10 things that I think you need to consider before buying a property, kind of like my checklist. And the first thing is, how does the property look? Not just on the inside but outside as well, because this is often like a good indicator of whether the property's been well looked after and if it's got any like underlying issues with it, stuff like that. Things as minor as, have they cut the grass? Is it been left unkept? How do the windows, like the panels on the windows look and the frames, are they in good condition, or is there signs of rotting, especially if it's like a wooden window frame? What does the condition of this property look like just from the outside? Are the pipes that are attached to the property, how do they look? Are they intact? The guttering, all of that, is it okay? And how does the tiling on the roof look as well? Is there anything out of place that could lead to leakages? Because replacing a roof can be really expensive, so you need to consider all of these things before you're like, yeah, sign the contract. And is the property structurally sound? You want to look out for like big cracks. I'm not talking about the tiny ones, but those massive cracks. You also need to look out for mold in a property. It's a really big deal. Mold is one of those underrated things that can cause a lot of damage, not just to the property but to your health as well. So you want to check for mold on like the walls, the skirtings and the ceilings, all of that. You need to get to the bottom of what's causing it. If you see condensation in the windows, especially if it's like a double glazed window, then it means that that window hasn't been fit properly. All of these little things that you might overlook but will cost you a lot of money later on to rectify. You also want to find out, is this property soundproof from like noisy neighbors, or like is it on a busy road? Can I hear the cars inside of the house? All of those kind of stuff. Basically try and cover all the bases. Don't leave any question, or don't think that any question is too insignificant or small to ask the current homeowners or the estate agents, because it's better for you to know what you're getting into before you sign the contract and end up with like a headache of unexpected costs for the repairs. The next thing for you to consider is the layout of the house. This is so important because it really does affect how you live, right down to your mood and how you function in that home. A lot of people gloss over this like it's not important, but it really is. Look at how all the rooms flow into each other. Does the layout make sense, and does it function for you, or is it going to function for you? Some properties, they have their bathroom in or off the kitchen. Like you're gonna have to be coming from upstairs, passing the living room, going through the kitchen just to get a shower. There's a number of properties in the UK that are structured like this. You need to consider, is this gonna work for me? Or if you've seen this property, you really like it, but the layout's a bit off, is there a possibility of you changing the layout, and will these changes fall within your budget? And also on the topic of layout, things like an open plan kitchen can be aesthetically pleasing because it can give you more room, or at least create the illusion of you having more space. But is this going to be practical for you? Because it doesn't work for everyone. And I'm going to use myself as an example. Now, a lot of the food that I cook, it smells like it has a strong smell, and it's not the type of smell that, okay, lighting a candle or even using the extractor fan is easily going to get out. So as a preference, I would rather have a kitchen that's closed off to the rest of the living area, preferably has a door and isn't so like open plan, so that smell isn't going through the whole of the house. So if, like me, you happen to cook a lot, or you happen to cook a lot of food that has these lingering unpleasant scents, then an open plan living space that's like open plan kitchen and living area might not be ideal for you, or not work as well for you as it could for other people. So unless you're prepared to regularly, constantly air out your home after every cooking session, the furniture, the fabrics in your home, like the curtains, the rugs, sofas, settees, all of that, they're going to eventually be smelling of your food. Jackets and coats, if you keep them downstairs near the kitchen, and you're not even going to notice that your house and the stuff in your house is smelling, because you're going to get so used to it. So these are the little practical things that I'm saying that you need to consider before actually purchasing a house, or going for something that you like as an ideal, but in reality it's really not going to work for you. Now the next point is, where is this property facing? In one of the previous points I mentioned how something as simple as the layout of that property can affect your mood and how you feel living in that home. And this isn't any different from the effects the house can have on you depending on where it faces. So the amount amount of natural light the property gets and how light and airy or how warm it feels can depend on whether the property is north or south facing. You don't want to get somewhere that throughout the year it's just dark and dingy. This will really affect you. It will even affect things like your house plants. It might not be something that you readily think about in winter. So if you're viewing a property in winter, like the darker, colder months, then use a compass. You know, you can get a compass on your phone to find out the direction of the house, even the direction the garden faces before you buy that property. Check what rooms are going to get sunlight and how much of the light is going to come in. And if you have a conservatory, is it going to be unbearably hot in the summer months, meaning that you practically can't use that space? I'm talking from experience. All of these things you need to find out because they might initially seem a bit minor, but they're really going to affect how you end up living your life. The next consideration is there any scope for improvement? If in the future, let's say you want to build an extension like to the back of the house or to the side of the house, you just want to extend it, or you want to turn like the attic into another bedroom just to create more space or even add value to the home, then you need to find out if one, this is even possible to do permission wise and all of that, and two, is it going to be practical for the type of property that you're getting? So for instance, you might want to extend to the attic. You need to find out if there's enough room for you to access this new room in the attic, or can you create access to that room without eating into a huge chunk of an already existing room in the house, making it even smaller? You need to put all of these things into consideration because they do affect the value as well. There's no point in eating into half of an already small room just because you want to create another room in the attic. So weigh things up and think, okay, is this going to be practical and is it going to work for us? Another point is the property well insulated? And this includes the walls, the attic, the pipes. Does it have double glazed windows, triple glazed windows? What sort of heating system does it have? Are the radiators even working properly? Like, you want to find out how old the boiler is, what type of boiler it's got, what's the water pressure in the house like? So for instance, when you're taking a shower, how is it going to come out? You might want to test the taps and even the shower while you're viewing the property just to try and gauge all of these little things. And will turning on a tap in another room affect a running shower? Does the property have a hot water tank in the attic? If it does, you might want to think to yourself that this might need changing very soon. So these little things make a huge difference when it comes to saving on energy costs and like the overall efficiency of that property, including how warm it's going to be in winter. Now, my next point is what's provided. Like, how's the broadband connection in that area? What services can you get? What service providers service that area? Do you have like a water meter, energy meter? Go into all those little details. And the next point is accessibility and schools. Now, if the property is going to be like a residential property for you and you have children and you know that you're particular about the type of schools that you want your children to go to, then you're going to have to find out if you're in the catchment area of a good school or good schools and how many people apply to those schools, if they can get in, is there a waiting list? All of that, you need to do the research beforehand, because a lot of people, they find really nice houses where they want to settle down long term, only for them to realize later on that they need to move out again because the area has rubbish schools. Now, the next point is you need to investigate what kind of neighborhood you're moving into and what the neighbors are going to be like. How quiet and peaceful is that area? Is the road busy? I suggest you visit that road at different times of the day, like in the morning, in the evening, all of that kind of stuff. And is there a school nearby, or is there a school like opposite the house? Because this could pose a big problem to you. And I'm going to give you an example. Before I moved out of my parents' house, there's a school right opposite their house, and the school gate was like literally opposite my parents' house. And every morning and afternoon, so drop off and pick up, it was a nightmare. There's cars just jam-packed, and in fact cars would park on our driveway, like blocking us in. If the bin men were coming in the afternoons, they couldn't get in. It was a mess. So these things can kind of grind on you later on. They can be like really irritating. Let's say you need to suddenly leave the house and you can't just up and go. You're sitting there for 20 minutes to wait for all the parents to clear off. So I just need you to consider all of these little factors. If there's a school nearby, where's the school gate? Is it going to affect that property directly? Think about these things because they can really, really affect your standard of living. Or are you under a flight path? Again, before I moved out of my parents' house, their house was directly beneath a flight path, and because the airport was nearby. So every time the planes take off, land, you could hear it, and it could be a nuisance at times. I mean, we got used to it, but for someone that's not used to it, this might be something that is just like, it's a deal breaker for you. And similarly, what's accessible in your area? Is there a corner shop nearby? Is it walking distance, or do you have to get into a car to drive to the nearest store? Is this train station nearby? Can you walk to it? Are there frequent public transports like the bus? Does it come regularly? And in regards to the people in your neighborhood, like I was saying before, apart from asking the current homeowners who might not feel obliged to tell you the truth because honestly they just want to sell, there's a number of ways for you to get like a general feel of the area and the people, from visiting the local pub and the high street to driving around the area or sitting there for a while in your car just to read off the vibes. There's nothing worse than having nightmare neighbors, and it's like one of the top reasons that people end up moving houses. My next point is you need to find out if there's any future developments planned for that area, developments that could affect you both in a positive or detrimental way. For example, some developments may make that area better to live in, even driving up house prices, which will increase the value of your property. But on the flip side, some developments may be costing on you as the owner. A lot of London boroughs are now charging residents to park outside their own homes. Roads that never used to have any parking restrictions before are now having double yellow lines popping up left, right and centre, and this is just to generate money for the council. If there are any like housing developments nearby, this might put a strain on you, on your parking, on your accessibility. New restrictions might emerge. All of these things you need to consider. It might increase the noise levels in your area. What was once a quiet street can now become really busy, or a busy area to live in, stuff like that. And finally, take someone along with you when you're viewing the property. They may notice things that you easily overlook, or point out things to you that you didn't readily think about, which could later become an issue for you. So don't do it on your own, especially if you're not too schooled in the area of property, or you don't really know what to ask, what questions to ask, or what to look out for. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this video was of value, and if you found it insightful and useful, you can also share it with other people that you think might benefit from it. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to this channel or consider subscribing for more content. Until next time, it's bye for now.